Whenever you're ready to go.
Awesome. Well, let's go. Well, first I'd like to say good afternoon, good morning, and or good evening for everyone that's going to be watching this video. Unfortunately, yesterday I didn't have the pleasure, rather, of speaking to you directly, and so I do apologize for the miscommunication on our side. I did want to have a live session, but hey, all things tend to work together for the way it's supposed to work anyway. I would like to thank YOA Orchestras of America really for this opportunity. I enjoy this immensely, particularly because I get to do it from home. Can't be being at home. For a person who travels most of my time, I'm on the road and I'm at colleges from New York to California and everywhere in between. I very rarely have the opportunity to speak to students from the pleasure of my own home. And so I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But even more importantly, I'm grateful to be speaking to you individuals who have a passion, for music. I love music. I wish I would have had half your skills. Unfortunately for me, my skill set was gifted around basketball, which I will share with you as I share my background. Um, as we mentioned before, as you all probably all seen on the information, my name is Omari Pearson. I'm the National Director of Banking in Our Future College Edition at Operation Hope. I have the pleasure of overseeing our college portfolio, which consists of over 100 universities. We have an MOU with the White House to provide financial education to all historically black colleges. We have an MOU with CUNY to provide education to all seeking CD students. And then we have other partners that spread out, whether national parks in Arkansas, Georgia State, Morehouse, Spelman, and I can go down a list of other universities that we've partnered with to really target financial education. In this conversation, we're going to talk about, something that I think every one of you on this call or on this, as you're watching this, cares about, which is money. Everyone wants to make more, whether you're black, white, red, yellow, or green. Everybody wants more green, right? And so, with that being said, I'm going to give you a lot of different information. It's going to be pretty fast, but please feel free to reach out to me. I already spoke with Ari and everyone else, letting them know that I make myself available. If you have any questions, please send them to Ari, and then Ari will compile them all together and forward them to me so I can respond back to everyone fast. With that being said, as I said before, my name is Omari Pearson. I am from Chicago, born and raised. I was a high school All-American. I was a college basketball All-American. I briefly had a stint with the Philadelphia 76ers, and I finished my career in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and then really enjoyed myself. South America was beautiful. I've had the pleasure, because of athletics, to play all over the world, from Iceland to Europe to even in Africa. And so now, finding myself in a role where I'm inspiring the next generation of world changers such as yourself, I find my athletic skills allowing me to have these opportunities, and it's also prepared me for them as well. But with that being said, let's hop into this conversation. It's not a lecture. I consider this more of a conversation. But with that being said, also, I want to make sure you get something that you can begin to apply immediately. All right? All right. So in our conversation today, we're going to talk about the basics of banking: checking accounts, savings accounts, budgeting, providing a budgeting form for you, and credit. We're also going to briefly talk about stocks. I'm not going to go too in depth with stocks today because, one, I don't know what your levels are, but two, I want you to begin thinking and doing the necessary research. I do know many of you all probably are already involved in some capacity, whether that's 401ks or other things, but I'm going to really stay on a surface level. I'm going to speak from an educational platform, so you can begin educating yourselves to make logical and sustainable decisions that will allow you to find success long term. I'm not a short term. I'm not a quick fix. I like long term success. All right. The other part we're going to talk about is the salary challenge. So one of the things that our group that I spoke with last year, many of them were entrepreneurial. Many of them planned on starting their own business, And so I always challenge the individuals in which I'm speaking with to really make sure you know what your starting salaries is. You need to know how much money you want to be working with. You need to know what you need to have for your budget. So even if right now you're a broke student or you're a broke musician, you still need to know what the going rate for your skill set is. And when I say broke, broke is not, um, it's a difference between being broke and being poor. Being broke is a temporary situation, but being poor is a disabling frame of mind. And so therefore you must vow to never ever be poor in your life. So when I say the word broke, don't take it as a negative connotation. Use it as a motivation. Broke means I may not have what I want, but I have something. I want you all to be way more advanced, way further down the line, and I really want you to position yourselves to be successful. With that being said, provide the starting salary for your desired career. Allot 10% of your income to purchase stocks and or retirement funds plans. And then we're going to talk about the compound interest rate. For many of you, you may think it's hard to become a millionaire. I always ask my students when I have walk into classrooms, whether it's 5,000 kids I'm talking to at a freshman orientation in North Carolina, or it's 20 kids I'm talking to in New York City in a small class, I always start with the first question, and I've never changed it. And I'm going to start it with you as well. How many of you all want to be a millionaire? And then right behind that question, I always follow it, what's your plan? Because to be something, just as you've worked countless hours to become a musician that you are, to the caliber and your level of your skill set, that you put yourself in positions to have success in that world and in that industry, you're going to have to do the same amount when you have a plan, financially speaking. Many of us work academically, we work socially, but very few people work on our financial understanding and IQ to grow it to where it needs to be so we can begin to make sound financial decisions that allow us to find success no matter in what we choose. I always tell students, you chase what your passions are. Most of you on this, as you're watching this, already have an idea of what your passions are. You're very clear on what your passions are. And because of that, you've been blessed with a gift, and you're utilizing your gift now to open other doors, whether that's starting a school, or that's starting a business, or that's starting a nonprofit, or you're teaching other young people in your community how to play instruments. In some way, shape, or form, you're utilizing your skill set. But you also have to remember that there's only so much ministry you can do on a dollar. And when I say that, meaning that, charity is great, but sustained charity is better. I'd rather you make capital so that you can help others long term, as opposed to being a quick fix because you don't really have the financial savvy to put yourselves in positions to really have generational transformation rather, amongst people and amongst your neighborhood and your communities and your nations. All right. Checking account. So really quickly, and I'm gonna go through. Apologies if you like, okay, checking accounts. He's talking to me like I'm 5 years old. I don't assume anything with any student that I'm talking to. I always start from the basics and then we work our way up. A checking account is nothing more than a daily account. The whole purpose of having a checking account is for you to have daily interactions. So case in point, I just literally came from Starbucks because I knew I was going to have this conversation with you, and I needed to be prepared so I wouldn't be tired and drugged down. So I needed to make sure I had some pep. So I had my Starbucks. So I swiped my card, my debit card. My debit card is connected to my checking account. So the money came out immediately. Typically, your checking account is a revolving door. It's meaning that you use it on a regular. It's what you put your capital in to pay your bills. It's what you pay your mortgage out of, your car note, gas, buy a meal, go to a movie. All of those things are typically done out of your checking account. It's not normally used for saving purposes. There are opportunities where there is, but normally you don't do it because you don't make as much interest. And so what people will say, well, shucks, my savings account doesn't make that much more interest than my checking account. And I will tell you this, I can care less whether it's 1 cent more or $20,000 more. I'm going to get every piece that the bank owes me. And so if a savings account gives me more interest, and as I'm saving my money, I'm going to make sure I get that 1% more, or whatever it is, or half of 1%. Now, contrary to checking accounts, our savings accounts are a little different. Our savings accounts are long term. It's where we put in money we may have a savings account for a rainy day fund. We may have a savings account for our vacation that we're planning, or we may have a savings account put to the side where we're planning to save, $5,000 so we can start our own business, or we know that we need this amount of capital to travel to this different state or to this school to do seminars or whatever it may be. Savings accounts are more long-term oriented. It could be 6 months, it could be 3 months, it could be 5 years. But typically you use that because you don't plan on touching that money on a regular basis. Also, most savings accounts, when you constantly are going into them, if you do constantly go into them, you find yourself getting penalties. They also have balance requirements. There are several banks that may have free student savings accounts, which have different requirements, different balance requirements, and therefore you're not penalized as much as you would in a typical savings account. So I advise every one of you to do two things. One, because you're students right now, I recommend you get a free student checking account. That's free. Don't, like a capital FREE. I don't care where you live in this world, there are free student checking accounts. If you're a college student, if you're going back to school for your master's, if you're associated as a student, when you have a student ID in music school or whatever you're doing, utilize that opportunity and get better services from your banking providers. If you go into your bank branch and say, hey, I'm a student at blah, 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 they're going to say, well, show me your ID. You pull your ID out, you show them your ID. Therefore, now you qualify for different rates. You don't have to have a mandatory minimum balance in certain areas. Therefore, you can have more flexibility. And then some banks also give you free student checks. Now, all you all on this call and watching this video probably are saying, checks, I haven't seen a check, I won't touch a check, don't need a check. But there may come a time and place where you may need that. In your business, you may have to pay some of your employees through checks. There are other different things that may come about in the future that you may find yourself doing and utilizing. So therefore, you want to put yourself in the best position now so that when those things do occur, you're ready for them. Ari, please, if you feel anything I'm saying where the students will want more information, please let me know and I will stop, if that's cool with you.
Yes, sir, will do.
All right. All right, as I already went to that checking part, like I said, it's a transactional account. It's liquid. You're constantly moving in and out of it. You're not really worried about it. FYI, everyone, your checking account, your money in your checking account is secured by the FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Company, up to $250,000. So any event of you putting money in the bank and within the United States, now internationally it's a little different. FDIC is not in Argentina, they're not in Africa, they're not in Europe. So for my international students, don't get mad at me. I'm sorry. But for my students that are based in North America, particularly the United States, the FDIC guarantees your money up to $250,000. There are other insurance places for other nations. I don't know them all, so don't get mad at me there, but I would advise you to Google that just to make sure your money is protected. As I shared with you about the checking accounts, there are different types of checking accounts, and I share with most people because I always ask my students, how many of you know there's 8 different types of checking accounts? Most people understand the basic, the free, but very few people have heard about the other ones. The student checking account is the one I shared with you, and I'm hoping that you utilize because it gives you better services. There is an interest-bearing checking account, which has a minimum balance typically to open, and then they give you a slightly higher interest rate. At the end of the day, these numbers and the interest rates in which we're talking about won't be astronomical. They're not going to give you 5% back on your checking account, but it may be 0.5% more or 0.005% more, which doesn't seem like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's your money. You've worked your butts off for your money. Therefore, it's your responsibility as adults to make sure you get the maximum return, whether that's in a checking account, a savings account, or even in a loan or starting your business. Be very aware of these different opportunities that you have and go from there. Writing the check. So real quick, I got to fly through this quickly. Most of you all, I'm assuming, have seen a check. Very few of you probably have actually written a check. But for those that I'm going to assume that you have, because this is a new school generation. My old school generation, heck, my mother-in-law still writes everything with a check now. Most of you all probably pay everything through PayPal or some other source, a third party, or your debit card. A check is simple. Top left-hand corner is typically your information. It has your name, John Doe, your address, and your city and state. So it'd be like 123 Johnson Street. Washington, D.C. 20004, something like that, right? All the way over to the far right of the check is where they would have the date. You would put your date there. Right below the top right corner, it will be a box. That box is typically the amount in which you write that you're making the check out to. So if there's a $5,000 check, I'm going to write 5, comma, 000, and then I'm going to put in smaller letters at the top, right after the last zero of the 5,000, I'm going to put 2 small zeros and put a line under it. That means there's no change. So it's $5,000 flat. Then it says there's a line. If you fly back over to the left side of the check and you come right below your information, it says check to, or who you're going to pay. So then I'm going to pay, Ari's about to get paid $5,000 from me because I like him. He's a cool dude. So now I put his name in there, Ari, and I put the 5,000 baht. Then right below his name, I have to write out in writing what am I going to give him. So I would spell out 5,000, FIVTHOUSAND, $1,000. Boom. So Ari just made $5,000 from me. Not bad, Ari, for a day's work, huh? And then right below that, I would sign my name. And that's the bottom right corner of the check. The bottom left corner of the check normally is where you add your note. So it will say, I'm paying Ari because he's cool. And it's just my way of remembering why I gave him $5,000. Not bad, Ari? You down with that one?
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right. So savings accounts. As I shared with you before, that's extended periods of time. You're paying money. You're hoping to make more money off of it. You're planning on saving up for something. You have a goal, and you're using this account as a holding account because you don't want to touch this money. This money has to grow. You have a vision of starting your own business, starting your own school. You need to buy more instruments. You need to go travel somewhere. You have an opportunity to go intern and or be tutored and or mentored by another master. So you go out and you save your money up and you use your savings account to do that. All right. There are 3 different types of savings accounts. There's a basic, which is a regular and or regular savings account. There's a money market, and then there's a CD. The basics and savings account is typically what you have. So if I were to divide these into 3 categories and make it very simple for you, basic, 3 to 6 months. Money, actually, let's make it back. Basic, 1 month. I like the 1 month better because it's a little easier. It's in and out. So 1 month goals. Money market account, let's go 3 to 6 months, and then CD, let's go 6 to 12. Obviously, there are CDs that are smaller in distance and time. You can have 3-month CDs and so forth. CDs tend to give you a higher interest rate than a basic and or regular savings account, just as well as CDs give you higher than a money market, and the money market account gives you higher than a basic account. So it's your job as you're going into your banks and they're offering these different products to you to ask them which one of your savings accounts will give me the most interest. All right. And if you have any questions with that, please reach out and let me know. I have some other websites I can send you to help you find the best interest rates in the country for that, particularly if you're U.S. bound. If you're international, there are other vehicles I can direct you to as well. All right, so this is my fun part, and I always have fun with this because before we go into your typical savings and your budgeting, and everything starts with a budget, having the discipline to set aside a certain amount of money so that you can now find yourself in a position that you have never imagined. I always ask my students, and when I walk into a room about the millionaire piece, and the number 2 question is the plan, but the number 3 question is why do you want to be a millionaire? And out of that, let's say if I have 100 kids in a classroom, I'm going to get 90 of them going to say they want to be millionaires. I'm going to get 5 that says they want to be billionaires, and I'm going to get another 5 that says they want to be comfortable. And normally when I pick on the kids who say they want to be comfortable, because when you say comfortable, I say quantify that. What does that number look like to me? And they say, well, $100,000 a year is comfortable to me. So now I say, well, then $100,000 from you, and then you're going to get married. That means your wife and or husband is going to make $100,000 or close to $100,000, if not more. So that means you're going to bring in $200,000 as a family, and you don't want to be a millionaire. And every 5 years, you're going to make $1 million. So we don't really think about the number. We just say comfortable. I really want you to think about what's comfortable to you, becoming a millionaire, it shouldn't be your goal. Your goal should be that I want to be the best at what I do. And why do I say that? Because if you're the best at what you do, money tends to follow you as opposed to you following it. But for all intents and purposes, becoming a millionaire, and I broke it down in a mathematical formula. If you were to take $1,000 a month, so the average median salary in the United States of America is between $32,000 and $35,000 a year. So you took a family. Let's say you met your husband or wife, and you both came together. You're making $35,000 each together. That's $70,000 a year. And you both say, you know what, we're going to live slim now so we can live fat later. Living slim now means I'm going to sacrifice. That means we're going to live in a sufficiency apartment. We're going to eat some Spam and a lot of ham sandwiches because we love each other. But we love each other so much, we're going to take over the world. I always say Pinky and the Brain, like the cartoon. We're going to take over the world. And so you say, I'm going to live slim now, so in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to live fat. Meaning we're going to work our tails off at work. We're going to accelerate. We're going to get the next education needed. We're going to grow our business, our plan, our marketing, our strategy, and we're going to put ourselves in a position so we can be able to buy what we want. But even when we can buy what we want, we're still going to budget, we're still going to save, and we're still going to grow our wealth. Because I always tell people, imagine where you would be right now if your parents would have done what I'm sharing with you right now 30 years ago. So it's a question that most of us don't think about, because when we talk about becoming a millionaire, we think more intrinsic than we do external. And I don't want you to be so much focused on yourself as I do want you to be focused on what $1 million can do for you and your family going forward. So back to the quick math. $1,000 a month is $12,000 a year. How do you get that? She takes out $500. He takes out $500. They put it into a retirement vehicle, whether it's a Roth IRA or there's a 401k or 413b, whatever it is, it's an investment vehicle. So that means you're tax deferring. You're using a vehicle to decrease your salary. So instead of being taxed on $70,000, you're going to be taxed on $58,000 as a couple. So Uncle Sam is out your pocket already, and so that helps you there. So now let's go fast forward. The average person works 30 years, right? So you got 30 years. 12,000 times 30 is 360,000. Albert Einstein said that the greatest invention known to man was compound interest. So I normally don't show the number. I would ask the question before I got to the number. So apologies for giving you the answer and without teasing you a little bit here. But I've never had a college student get this one right for me. I always say, what's $360,000 compounded annually at a 5% interest rate? What is that number? Well, you see it right below. 360 grows to $797,266.17, annually compounded at a 5% rate. So roughly 360 becomes $800,000. Your money doubles. But then the people normally in the room get quiet and they say, well, shucks, I got to wait 30 years to have $800,000? I said, yeah. But I said, well, think about this, though. I gave you the worst salary you could possibly have. Most of you in this room are going to make far more than what I said. Oh, and by the way, in 30 years, if you're making $35,000 still, you need a new job. You need to go back to school and get a new education and a new focus so you can get more money. Because realistically, if you start at 35, in 30 years, you're now the director, you're the person training the new people, therefore you're making probably $60,000 to $70,000. So that's at worst. So that means if you're making 60, your spouse is making 60, that means you're making $120,000 a year. So now you have a lot of money to do your vacations. You have money to be able to buy the home that you wanted. You have the money to buy the car you wanted. And what also you have the money to do? To put more money in your savings account. So instead of saving just $12,000, you can go up to $18,000. And imagine what happens to those numbers. All right. Budgeting form. So I didn't have the budgeting part on this, but let's back up to the back to the budgeting part. So on a typical budgeting form, and I want you to think about this. First, I'm going to give you a homework assignment, and this is all your assignment, so you can do it or not, but it's on you. This is your money, your future, your joy, all right? But I want you to track your spending for the next week. I want you to get a piece of paper and just keep it in your pocket, your purse, your back wallet, whatever you all carry on a regular, and track every dollar you spend, whether that's gas, whether that's paying a bill, whether that's buying ice cream, buying a bag of chips, some gum, whatever it is. I want you to be able to track it. Why? Because at the end of that week, I want you to tally it up. One, I want you to see how much money you spent in that week. And then the second part, I want you to look and create a list. On that list, I want you to put needs and wants. And you got to be real with yourself. This is where I say, the Michael Jackson moment. You got to look at the man in the mirror. So you can tell me, and you tell yourself rather, not me, tell yourself where you're wasting money. So a need, for example, everyone that's listening to my voice, you need deodorant because whoever you're around do not want to smell you. But there may not be a need to buy a whole lot of gum or to buy 3 coffees from Starbucks a day or to spend money unnecessarily. Those may be wants. So as you're doing those different categories and you're utilizing them, please note that your needs you have to spend. Your wants are things you feel like you do, but you really may not need. When you see those calculations of what you spend on wants, if it's a high, reevaluate, cut that list in half, and then begin applying that money that you were wasting to your savings account. It's a way to start growing. All right. Now back to the budgeting piece. Line 1 of a budget is income coming in. Line 2 of the budget is income going out. The subcategories of line 2, which is income going out, is the list of where you're going to be sending money out to. So Sprint for me will be one because I got to pay my cell phone, I got to pay mortgage, I got to pay, private school, whatever I have to pay for, right? Then I want you to put miscellaneous. So those are the things that just pop up. A train trip here, a flight there. It's just something that you didn't expect, but it popped into your budget. Keep track of everything you do. I sit down with my wife weekly and we do budgets. We sit down monthly, we do budgets, and we sit down annually, we do financial goals. And I constantly keep money before us. Why? Because if you were to ask any person who knows what their research is, the numbers show the number one reason which students don't graduate from college is money. The number one reason for divorce is money. So we all say we don't want to be, gold diggers, but at the same time, the statistics speak opposite of that. And it's not saying gold diggers. It's just money creates a little freedom. The reason you save up so you have a nest egg, so therefore if you're in a situation where you don't like it, you can actually change it, as opposed to having to keep that job that you're working and you hate that job because you haven't saved anything. You don't have the freedom to choose. And that's where I really want you all to grow. I want every person that's listening to my voice here want to create your budget. If you don't hear anything else I said, create your budget, and you have to pay yourself for it first. Because the last part of your budget, as I said, miscellaneous was the third. The fourth is savings. You pick a number, you pick a percentage, and you stick to it. I don't care if it's 2%. I don't care if it's 1%. I don't care if it's 10%. You pick the number and stick to it. So every dollar you touch, if you say 10%, 10 cents goes to your savings account. And it's like clockwork. So whether it's $1 or it's $20,000, you're going to give 10%. 20,000, you're putting away 2,000. $1, you're putting away 10 cents. All right? Gotcha. Now, my stocks piece. This is the important part, and this is more from an educational perspective. I won't answer these questions, and I'm not going to tell you what column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 means. If you all could email these answers of what each column represents to Ari, it will be greatly appreciated. Why I'm asking you to do this research is because stock tickers are extremely important. When you're having people invest your money, you need to know what they're buying. So I'm going to give you a cliff note. I'm going to give you a couple cliff notes, is a little short abbreviated notes to give you answers. So the first one, the 52-week high, is what the highest is traded in the last year. So that says $45.39 for RS Med, right? The low is $19.75. So if you bought that stock at the lowest, you just doubled your money. Somebody made a lot of money that year on ResMed. So if we were to go from that, now if we were to go to, let's say, Revlon A. So the low was $355. If you bought at $11.63 and then went down to $355, you just lost your shirt, a lot of money. But it's either way, you need to know what those are. Second part where it says stock is the name of the company, and that's where I'm going to stop. I want every person to find out what the ticker abbreviations are. Why do they use those? Dividend, yield, P&E, the volumes, the high, and the low. I'm going to give you that too. The high and the low is what it was for the last 24 hours. So when you look at ResMed, the high is $42. That means in the last 24 hours, it was $42 as the highest got. The lowest it got was $39.51. And then it closed at $41.50. All right, so you've got three homework assignments: dividends, yield, P&E, and the net change. All right. Uh-oh. Get you the answers there. All right. Salary challenge. Here we go. This is the fun part. So provide a starting salary for your desired career. So whatever that is, whatever the starting salary is, if you're entrepreneurial, pick where you feel like you're going to be in the next 3 years. Where do you think 3 to 5 years you're going to be at? And be realistic. Don't tell me you're going to be at $2 million a year if you haven't even made $10,000. Think about it, be real, do your research, go online, Google it, see what the average person is making for a career in that field, and then go from there. After you do that, I want you to put on paper, if you're saving 10% of that income to your 401k and or other retirement vehicle, what does that look like? And I want you to compound it at a 4% annual rate. And then I want you to write down where you'll be in 10 years, 20 years, and 30 years. This is extremely important. You're 33% more likely to reach your goal when you put it on paper. So if you put your goals on paper, I guarantee you're going to improve your chances. That's not me talking, that's science talking. I really want you to begin writing your financial goals on paper. We're very good at writing all the other goals out, but we very rarely write down financially where we want to be. Even when those who budget, those write their budget out, but they don't write where they want to go financially. So in the next 5, 10, 20 years, where will you be financially? And then the better yet, how are you going to get there? What's your vehicle to get there? What are the necessary requirements to do that? Who do you need to partner with to do that? How do you utilize YOA and the resources that you have through YOA and the alumni network that they have that's amazing to make sure you're positioning you and your business to be successful financially speaking? Those are things I want you to think about. Finances and money in itself is very emotional. And I always tell people, imagine this. Let me borrow $100 from you and tell you I'm going to have to pay you tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and you have a bill that's due, and you call me up and say, Omari, I need $100 back. You said you're going to pay me where it's at. And I say, guess what? I don't have it anymore. I don't care if I've been your best friend since you was 8. You're going to have an issue with that. Now, yeah, some of us will handle it different, and depending on your financial situation, if you're tight and you can have no one else to call on, you may respond a little bit different than the person who has a person that can call on to get the money back. But either way, it's going to create some type of discontent, and probably even if you're financially stable, you're probably going to second guess giving me money again because it's created a lack of trust there for me. Why do I say that is this? The same way you had to educate yourself for your music and your gifting, don't treat your money any less than that. Make sure that you're educating yourself about money and buying books, because money has a language and very few people speak it. So then when people lose their money, they say, well, it's someone else's fault. And the reality of it is, if you're an adult, every decision in which you make is on you. It's your job, your responsibility, and you have to make sure that you properly educate yourself, not to become Wall Street investors, but to know if a Wall Street investor is lying to you. All right? All righty. This is my contact information. I have my phone number on there. I will tell you this, I typically do not answer phones very much. Ari has my number, and I answer because he's programmed in there, but typically you go to voicemail. I recommend any one of you that really want to reach me, do it through my email address. Now, for social media, I post internships and things that I get from the White House or Department of Education or other partners that we have that I think can be relevant to other students. My social media is strictly for that purposes. I will tell you I don't follow back, so don't get mad at me if you follow me. Just don't do it. Ari, I'm gonna open this up real quick if you don't mind, where we can have a little conversation. Where if there's some areas that you think we should kind of talk about just briefly, and you can ask me some questions hypothetically as if the students were here themselves.
Um, yeah, so it was a great seminar, by the way. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Let me access the Google Drive real quick to see if anyone
No
sent
problem at all.
anything. Give me 1 second. This unit is about social entrepreneurship, and
Okay.
so what the leaders will ultimately be doing is that they're going to be creating their own sort of El Sistema, uh, not El Sistema, like their own music outreach program where they teach people, and that's the final project. So, do you have
Absolutely.
any advice for that? How to manage the money in sort of a more grassroots El Sistema kind of teaching program?
Absolutely. So I get excited. Social entrepreneurship is one of my passions. So I'm happy you shared that with me. For every student, hear me very clearly. The most beautiful thing about social entrepreneurship is that it's organic and it's not faked or replicated, meaning that no two cities are the same, no two environments are the same. So, for example, Washington, D.C. may have an issue where they're cutting, music programs in high schools. It's hypothetical. I'm talking. I don't know if they are or not. Um, but if they are, and I have my skill set, why not reach out to these schools and offer my services to their student population? Now that I have the student population, why not now tap into the grants that are available through state and or national organizations and or foundations? Every social entrepreneur basically identifies the issue within their current situation, their current environment, and then they begin figuring out a strategy around how do I incorporate my gifting, my skill set, who I am, and who I already know to begin to solve this problem. Napoleon Hill said that if you want to create a job, you find a solution for a problem, right? So now in your gifting, in your skill sets, in what you've already done, and most of your resumes are probably amazing. um, so now packaging all of that together to begin leveraging it to the areas in which you already have relationships. So great case in point. If you were to go to the school that you went to school, let's say high school or middle school, where the principal may be there, same principal or not, either way is fine, and you go say, I want to schedule a meeting with the principal, and I want to talk with them, and I just want to share with them what I'm doing. You go in, you sit down, you have that meeting. Out of that meeting, they like you. You find favor with them. They're excited about what you're going to do and what you're going to bring. You offer an after school program or some capacity. Then you already now have one partner. Before you leave that meeting, though, and I always tell people this, I can't ask for something until I first give, right? In any relationship, if it's always me taking and me never giving, no one wants to be around me. I'm the friend that you would say, then Chuck, I don't want to hang around you because you're always asking for stuff, right? Same thing goes for relationships and partnerships. So as you're building your business, you're first giving something. You're giving of your time, you're giving of your effort, you're giving of your skill set. But in giving, what now happens is you position yourself to ask. So now that I visited that school, I now have tracked my information. I did pre-test and post-test, whether through SurveyMonkey or whatever you want to do to show my impact, show how positively affected the students were. Then I now go back to the principal for my second conversation. In that second conversation with the principal, I say, well, I've been providing these services for your school. It's been an amazing time. It's been great. But now, how can I make more money? How can I find grants? Are there grants available? Are there foundations that you're aware of? Now, in the same breath, I'm already doing my research, right? I've already went online. I've already Googled foundations who offer music grants and so forth. I've already reached out to YOA and ARI and everyone else to kind of help counsel me through that process. So when I go in there, I'm already armed. I already know what I need him to say. I already know what he can possibly direct me. But I just need him now to be one of my recommendations or her, right? So as you're now going through that part, you find your first grant. Your first grant is your leveraging piece, right? Your first financial penny that you make, whether you're charging, whether you're receiving state funding, private funding, whatever you're doing, it's your seed money. It's not your salary money, it's your seed money. You can't make money until you first plant money, meaning that strategically, as you receive, let's say if you receive a $10,000 grant, and you're like in my mind, like, hey, I need this $10,000 to spend. I haven't paid myself, and therefore, if I don't pay myself, I'm a starve. That's a different conversation. We got to eat. But after you get over that, the eat part, you got to look at that $10,000 and say, well, can I spend five of that to grow in an area where I may have not grown? I may need to buy a new drum or a new speaker or a new microphone or something. So when I go to my next partner, I have something else to say. So my first partner, I went in and I told him I had, one keyboard and I had, drums, or I had a couple instruments. And he was like, awesome, perfect. So students don't have to buy it. They can come in and use your instruments. Beautiful. But then now I can go back to the next partner and say, oh, I have two of each. That now makes me even more valuable. That means I can reach more students. The more students I reach, the more I can package my deal. Hear me very clearly. And here at Operation Hope, we've been very fortunate to cultivate relationships. Our chairman, John Hope Bryant, who founded this organization in 1992 after the Rodney King riots, has built some amazing relationships. But one of the best things he's ever did was because he nurtured his relationships, we've now been able to sustain ourselves and grow to a level where we're constantly expanding and growing and moving forward. And our partners are writing $1 million checks to us, but they didn't at first. It's been a natural process because we plant it and we replant it. Right now, we're a 4-star on charitable contributors, meaning that most of the money in which we touch goes immediately back into the community. You have to build your track record up so when the people say X, Y, and Z's business, they know that you're quality, they know that you're sustainable, and they also know that you're reputable, and they know the money that they're going to give you is going to go back to the community and not just in your pockets. That's going to be the biggest key, I think, for the budgeting perspective, because if you budget the right way, you replant and invest into your business, and then you build and cultivate those relationships, you'll ultimately position yourself to find your business exploding.
Thank you.
Got anything else for me, Ari?
If the leaders send me some questions, I'll pass them on. But for now, that was great. Um,
Now, Ari, since you're in DC, I know we're being recorded right now, but I will say, man, we have to connect sometime soon.
yes, sir, definitely.
Get
Um,
you over to Gallup for lunch. I treat. I'm assuming you're a student, correct?
actually, I'm a high school student, so.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
What
Oh
about you?
man. That's awesome, man. Have a
Thank
good
you
one.
very much, Mr. Pearson.
Not a problem at all. Have a good one.
Have a good night.